But then my self-doubt in my head would be like, oh yeah, but you've got no money, you've got no connections, you don't know anyone in the beauty industry. And I sat in that place between having this knowing in my gut, like I'm supposed to like do the thing and launch it. And what if I could do it? And then these no's in my head saying, you don't have what it takes. I sat in that place for a while. And I eventually really had this deep moment where I'm like, okay, my whole life, I have never seen someone with rosacea selling products. Like, what if I could create a beauty company that worked for everybody, even if they had skin issues? What if I put all different types of people as models? So I had this thing that felt bigger than myself to do.
You have greatness inside of you. You have greatness inside of you. And I want to share this message with you, especially if you're someone who feels like, oh, your past or your past mistakes are going to hold you back from your future, or that somehow where you come from is going to somehow determine or limit where you're going, right? Or that maybe you feel like, because so many of us do this, we tell ourselves stories like, oh, I've failed too many times. I have too many regrets. You have no idea the mistakes I made, the people I've hurt. You have no idea the things I got wrong, the times I let other people down, the times I let myself down. And we start focusing on this story and we decide that our past somehow now disqualifies us from all of our potential, from all of our goals and dreams, from all the things that we feel deep down inside in our soul that we're put on this earth to step into. I want to talk to you right now if you feel like somehow you've made too many mistakes, or your past is going to prevent you from succeeding in the future, or that you've failed so many times that now you feel like you're a failure. Okay, here's the deal. Every single one of us, and especially if you just take a moment and you Google right now, the most incredible thought leaders in the world, the people that have moved humanity forward, the people who have built incredible businesses, the people that have, helped heal humanity as a force for good or a force for love, and you read their stories, every single one of them has had so many failures, so many mistakes, so many setbacks, has been canceled big time, and whatever version the society called canceled in that time period, right? Every single one of them. But they're the brave ones, willing to acknowledge and not let it take root in their identity and not let their past determine their future. So I want to talk to you today, if this is you, if you feel like you've been hanging on to a story that tells yourself things like, I don't have what it takes because I've failed too many times, or I don't have what it takes because people keep rejecting me, I must just be a reject, or I've failed so many times, I must be a failure, or I'm so ashamed of the people I've hurt or the things that I regret in my life. And when we hang on to those things, we let them take root in our identity, and then we start to believe the lie that who we are isn't worthy, and that those things somehow prevent us from a whole different, big, bright, incredible future that we're actually meant to step into. Your past mistakes do not determine your future potential. They just don't. A couple of stories. So I share in Worthy, by the way, there's an entire chapter called You Have Greatness Inside of You. And this chapter is going to be life-changing for anybody who feels like you've made too many mistakes, or you don't have what it takes, or you've let people down or hurt people, or you've failed too many times, or people have rejected you too many times. This is an entire chapter about how to tap into the greatness inside of you and not let your past determine your future. This is so big, y'all. I have made, a lot of times when people Google my story, they see, oh, Jamie Kern Lima, went from Denny's waitress to building $1 billion business, and it looks like a fairy tale, and it looks like maybe things must have just come easy, or maybe I was raised in a family where I was just set up to do that. And let me just tell you, I have made more mistakes in my life than I can ever count. I made more mistakes building at cosmetics than I can ever count. I have made mistakes growing up, hanging around the wrong people. I made mistakes growing up when I had really low self-worth and I confused attention with love. I made a lot of choices that I share, by the way, for the first time ever in Worthy, a lot of choices in my life that, do I regret? A lot of choices I've never shared with anyone because I was ashamed of what happened. A lot of choices that led me to hanging out with people that were not good for me. And also just like, keeping people in my life who hurt me because I didn't think I was worthy of more. There were times in my life, I remember waitressing at Denny's. I remember, I had these big dreams, but I just felt like somehow people like me who come from the way I was raised, like don't ever have big dreams happen to them. And here's the thing I know is that when it comes to your life, when it comes to your dreams, your goals, your careers, your ambitions, like over time, we don't perform to the level of our potential. We actually plateau at the level of our self-worth. And so learning to do the work to first identify like, oh, wait, okay, let me just look at all the evidence out there of all the people that have ever done incredible things. Oh, they have pasts too. They've made so many mistakes too. They've been rejected so many times. They've failed so many times, but they keep going. And look what happens, right? Just looking at that evidence, right? Changing that story, changing the story we're telling ourselves about our past and how it does not have to determine our future is step one. And also just being aware of the story that we're telling ourselves, right? And then making the decision to believe the truth. Because here's the deal. When we believe our past disqualifies us from everything, A, it's a lie. B, it's a thought and a story we're telling ourselves. And our thoughts and those stories live in our minds. That's where self-doubt lives. But when you tune into your soul, and if you feel that feeling like you're on this earth to do great things, to love, to serve, to give, when you ask your soul, whether it's for you, you pray about it, or you meditate about it, whatever is your practice of choice. But when you tune into your soul, for me, I pray, and I will hear the truth. My past does not disqualify me. My past does not determine where I'm going. It just doesn't. And who I am fully is enough. And you right now, does not matter what's happened in the past. If you tune into your soul right now, you get really still. You can pause this video. Pray, meditate, whatever speaks most strongly to you, and you tune into your soul, right? You're going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are special, you are one of a kind, you are fully worthy, you have greatness inside of you, and your past does not have to determine your future unless you decide to live there. You decide to live in the past, focus on the past, then it becomes a huge thing, it magnifies and it takes root in your identity. But right now, and I go in deep in how to do this in Worthy, right now, you can literally make the decision, I'm not going to focus on that anymore. I'm not going to believe that old lie and that old story that I've made too many mistakes, so I'm a mistake. Or I've failed too many times, so I'm a failure. Or I've been rejected so many times, I'm a reject. That is a lie that it's time to unlearn. Okay, so awareness, number one. Number two, just really paying attention to what is that story and making the decision. I'm not going to focus on that story anymore. I'm not going to believe the lie that my past or my past mistakes are going to determine my future, because they don't. And then step three is tuning into that truth that knows. It knows what it knows, which is that you right now are fully worthy, fully capable, have everything you need inside you right now to accomplish the greatest dreams and goals on your heart. And the most important journey you can ever take is building your self-worth up and learning to believe that for yourself. So the new story is the true story. The new story is the true story. The new story is that you right now are not your past mistakes. You right now are your present and future intentions. Your present and your future intentions. That's who you are. That's who you are. And you can decide who you are right now. You can decide what you're going to step into and the person you're going to be born to be, because at the end of our life, right? I always think about this. I don't want to look back and go, what has self-doubt cost me? And have the answer just be so much I can't even handle it. I want to look back and go, yeah, I failed. Yeah, I put myself out there. Yeah, I got rejected. But like, I'm one of the brave ones that I left it all out on the field, and look at the beauty and the magic and the incredible moments in my life that came as a result of being the one out there on the field, giving it my all, making the decision that my past mistakes, my past failures do not define me, and I'm fully worthy of stepping in to the person God made me to be, the person your creator made you to be, the person you know in your soul you're born to be.
For the person trying to overcome addiction or hold their marriage or relationship together or maintain hope during a season of setback, Ed, can you talk about what you call the power of one more?
Yeah, well, I learned that from my dad, as you know, but my dad was an alcoholic. And so when I was growing up, till I was 15. And then we were driving to a Little League game. He was taking me to a Little League game one morning, and my light changed my life. My dad was not a crier. He's a man's man type of guy. He didn't think you're supposed to cry, which obviously I violate all the time. And he pulls the car over on the way to the game, and he wouldn't look at me, Jamie, at first. And he started to talk without looking at me, and he just says, Eddie, I'll never forget this. I'm going to try to get sober one more time. That was the first time I ever heard that before. And I remember saying, Daddy, like, what would be any different this time? You've tried before. And he said, because this time I'm going to do it because I love you. And it makes me, I don't know why you do that to me. I don't remember ever hearing my dad say that prior to that time, ever. And he got emotional and I got emotional, and he said, I'm going to try one more time. And then when he went away and he came back, I said, Daddy, are you never going to drink again? And he said, I can't promise you that, Eddie. What I can promise you is I'm not going to drink for one more day at a time. And those days stacked up for the remaining 35 years of his life. He never had another drink. So what I learned out of that was two things. One was the power of trying something one more time and the value of that. The other thing I learned for people that are going through those things is my dad linked that effort to love, because love is greater than your fears. It's the one thing in your life that's greater than your fears or your emotions or the setbacks. Love is the greatest gift we have in our life. And the power of how much he loved me and our family was greater than his addiction. And if you can begin to link these difficult times you have to the love you have for another person, or even your pet, like your Pomeranians, like me, then you've got a superpower in you. And when we don't have that linkage is when we're weaker. And if you think about a good person, you usually won't do a whole lot for yourself, but you'll do a whole lot for people that you love. Usually most good people will do more for people that they love and that they care about than they ever would for themselves. And so if you're that type of person, if you're going to find your way out of whatever situation, you've got to link it to the people that you love and make your greatest effort on their behalf. And that's what my dad did with one more. Yeah.
And it worked.
It worked. Yeah. We're here today because of it. The other thing I learned is interesting. I know I've told you this privately, but the other thing we do as human beings is we discount ourselves. You know, we think, well, I'm not qualified to help other people because, you know, I've got this mistake I've made, or I've been divorced, or I've always been average and ordinary. Why would I ever do something great with my life, you know? And I think we do that. We use our failures as weapons against ourselves, or even our sins and our mistakes. And I know I've done that before. And so after I wrote The Power of One More, it literally changed my existence. I woke up one night, my wife, Christiana, and I was crying. She goes, babe, what's wrong? I said, someone helped Dad. Someone helped Dad. She goes, what? My father had already passed away. I'd already written the book. She goes, what? I said, I never thought about this. Someone helped Dad when he was going to take his own life. Someone helped my dad get sober. My dad's life changed because some precious human being stepped forward and said, I can help you. I can help you. And that person doesn't know it, but they changed my life. The ripple effect of helping one human being, one person in your life, that power of one more person you help is magnificent. And they don't know, whoever they are, that I'm his son. And I've been blessed to reach millions of people. That act of helping this one man. And my dad was going to take his life. This one man in his time of greatest need changed my life and changed a lot of other people's lives. And Christine's like, wow, that's amazing. I said, that's not even the most amazing part. The most amazing part of it is what qualified whoever this person is to help my dad? Because I didn't know who they were at the time. She said, I don't know. I said, well, it wasn't that they were perfect or how smart they were, how amazing they've been in life. What qualified them was at one time they were an alcoholic. They were a drug addict. They were lying. They were living in the shadows. They were ashamed. And actually, that's what helped them connect with my dad. Because as you know, we have a mutual friend who talks about this all the time, but you're most qualified in your life to help the person you used to be. And so ironically, God uses your mistakes or your averageness, whatever you think it is, to qualify you to help other people that are just like you. And so that's the extension of the power of one more. That man, I found out who he is now, changed my entire life, and he didn't know it just because he stepped forward and was qualified to help my dad. And that qualification was his mistakes, not his perfection.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. So many of us, we think we need to hide our past mistakes, or we should be shameful of them. And so many people are searching for their purpose, and they think maybe it's going to come through their job or through some great act of, that the world celebrates. But you talk about that God can use your pain, right, for good.
Yes.
And can you talk about that? Because a lot of people are searching for their purpose, and you think about how this one person helped your dad, who then,
I think probably, I've thought a lot about this for me too, and you, because you and I talk about this a lot. If you can survive pain, temporary pain in your life, and all pain is, everything's temporary except our souls. If you can survive temporary pain, on the other side of that pain, you meet another version of you. There's some characteristic, some learning, some lesson, some emotion, some understanding that God gives you for your pain if you survive it. So I've actually looked at, I think people that are happy and successful, to some extent, they develop a different relationship with pain than people who just only suffer through it. And so I'm going through something even right now, as you know today, that's pretty uncomfortable and painful. But what I keep reminding myself is the cool part about it is once this is over, I get another version of me out of it. And that lesson that I'll learn, God's going to use for me to qualify with somebody else who's going to go through some form of pain.
Yes.
So I really look at pain much differently in life as I don't want it in my life. I would prefer to not have any, but I'm also a realist after 52 years. Like I look at a pattern in my life, I go through painful things, and so do most people. And I think your relationship with it or your belief about what it means can change everything and give you the faith, give you the confidence, give you the strength to persevere through pain. And it breaks my heart that most people don't understand. If they were to look back at their life, most of the beautiful experiences of their life came after something painful. And so I would just recommend anybody, if you're going through it right now, my prayer for you is that you have the wisdom to know it's temporary. This soon will pass. This too will pass. But on the other side of it, there's a gift waiting for you if you look for it.
What you just said is so powerful, and the fact that in the midst of your pain, on the other side of it is a new version of you.
Yes.
And just for everybody listening right now, I wasn't even planning to ask you this, but it reminded me of something that you have shared. I've seen you share this in stadiums where everyone just starts sobbing because this is such a powerful concept. But when we think about the things that we go through and that other version of us waiting on the other side, can you talk about how you envision meeting the version of you one day that you were born to be? This is a story for everyone listening right now, because ever since I heard you say this, I think about this all the time. I think about this all the time. Can you share this? Because listen up, everybody.
Well, I do too. I think about it all the time too. So maybe I'm weird in the sense that I like to think about the end of my life. It's okay with me to think about that. And because it gives me perspective on what matters now. And so to me, when you pass away, I mean, in my faith as a Christian, all I really want is the Lord to go, hey, well done, good and faithful servant, and get your butt in here. That's what I want. But having said that, whatever your faith is, I think that you meet who you could have been. I think you get introduced to the ultimate version of you. And so,
like when you pass, you get to heaven, whatever you believe.
I think I do. I think when you get to heaven, this is my hallucination, that the Lord's going to go, this is who I made you to be. Meet her, meet him. And in my opinion, when I get there, I I want to be identical twins. I want to get everything out of my life. I say max out your life. I want to become that person. And to me, heaven, a form of heaven for me, would be that when I get there, we're identical twins. I say, man, I've been chasing you all my life. All my life I've been chasing you. And for the ultimate me to look back and go, man, I was watching you. And you know what? You fell down that one time. I don't know if you're going to get up. And man, you blew it in that chapter. You completely screwed that one up. But you know what? You kept getting up. You kept getting up. You kept getting up and learning that lesson and improving and growing. And then you'd have another setback. And then you thought you had it figured out, and then you don't. And you know what? You got here. You did it. You did it. You maxed out your life. You had all the emotions you were supposed to experience. You made all the memories. You made the difference in the world. You felt and lived life the way you were supposed to, the way you were born to have it. And for me, that's heaven. Hell would be the reverse, which is I get there and we're total strangers. That at some point, he goes, I saw you and you had such promise and potential, and you got up that one time, and the next time you got up, but then you didn't. And you quit on your dreams, you quit on your family, you quit on your potential, you quit on your emotions and your memories. And so many people, unfortunately, have quit. And my message would be, you can still get up. It's not too late, right? It's not too late, because to me, it would be hell to go, we're total strangers. And when I look at that version of me where I don't get there, I picture the ultimate me saying to me, I've never said this to you before, but lately I've been picturing the ultimate me going, Ed, what happened? What happened? And I know what the answer would be if I don't become me. I know what would have held me back. And what I would have said was, and this is why your work with Worthy is so profound, by the way, what I would have said is, I quit getting up because I was scared. I was scared I wasn't enough. I was scared this was too big for me. I was scared of what other people were going to think about me. And I was more afraid than I loved my family, than I loved the people around me. And I gave into my fears rather than embracing the love. And I don't want that to ever happen. I want, when my life ends, for me to go, I loved the people around me enough to keep getting up. That love was bigger than how afraid I was. And I think what ends up happening, if we don't get there someday, we don't have the emotions we deserve to have, the memories we deserve to have, the life we deserve to have, it will be because we were afraid. And more I become familiar with your work, we're afraid we're not worthy enough. We're afraid we're just not worth it. And I don't want that to happen. So I just remind myself that my love for the people around me is greater than how afraid I am.
Woo!
Yeah, and they're worth it.
They're worth it. I
They're
have
worth it.
full chills, like full chills. And the person listening right now, dimming their light,
Yeah.
doubting themselves out of their own destiny. What you just said, I want the love for my family, for it to be more than my fears. And you arriving to heaven, not becoming the person that you were born to be or created to be, is you saying, I let my fears be greater than my love for my family.
I was literally driving here today, Jamie, and Christiana is in our garage doing some cleaning because I have her do all the manual labor in our house. And I'm kidding.
I know that to be true.
It actually is
has
true.
told
She's
me.
told you that. And but to along your point, because it's emotional for me, she sent me some pictures of my grandparents, and was just driving up here today. And maybe she sent them to me because I'm having a rough day, But one of them was of my papa, and who I'm named after. I'm Edward Michael Joseph Milet III. And when I was a little boy, Papa was the person that made me feel special. And what I would say to people listening or watching is, when you were a little boy or a little girl, hopefully there was like that one person that when they would look at you, and if you did have that person, picture their face right now, just when you were with them, they made you feel special, like you were born to do something great with your life. You just felt something about you when you were around them. And for me, it was my papa. He wasn't my dad at that time. It was his dad. I remember my papa would pick me up on Sundays. We'd go get donuts for all my cousins before we'd go to church. And he had this blue van, and he would pick me up, and he was this big man to me, and I would look at him as a little boy sitting in the seat. Finally, he let me sit in the passenger seat next to him. He was funny. He'd drive by people and honk and just wave at total strangers. And I thought Papa knew everybody. But he would look at me and he'd go, Eddie, you were born to do something great with your life. You're the special one. You're awesome. I go, I am, Big Papa. He goes, you are. You're my favorite. And he would always tell me I was his favorite. He had all these grandkids. I was the oldest one. And every time another grandkid was born, you'll get a kick out of this. I remember vividly, he called me one time. He goes, I was 8. He goes, Eddie, your cousin Peter was born today. He's amazing. He's got our blue eyes. I said, he does, Papa? He goes, he's incredible. 6 pounds, 7 ounces. He goes, he's awesome. I go, that's great. He goes, but you're my favorite. And he made me feel special. For most of us, maybe it was a coach or a teacher or an auntie or a grandparent or our mom or our dad. What I would just say to you about if they made you feel that way, you probably even get emotional when you think about them. If they're gone, especially, what I would just tell you is they were right. They were right. If you had that person, they were right about you. And maybe the rest of the world hasn't recognized it yet and treated you that way, but they knew. They knew. And if you have that person in your life, honor them with who you become. If they're here, do it so they can be proud of you. And if they're gone, honor them with the man or woman you're changing into. Because in my case, I'll remind myself, Papa was right. Papa was right. And even looking at that picture of him just an hour ago, as I was coming up here, just it made me feel something. And so, by the way, the cool thing about life is you could be that person in other people's lives if you wanted to be. You could be their Papa by giving them the gift of your belief in them. And then you're contributing to people's worthiness by being that person. That's sort of what you and I kind of in a microcosm try to do with our own lives. Yeah. It's not that complicated to be me or you. I just love and believe in people, and I try to find things in them that they know to be true about them and to let them know that's why they're worthy. That's why they're amazing. It's not that complicated to be that person. Yeah.
And talk about finding your purpose. Don't you find that when you know you've been that person, even if it's someone at Starbucks that you don't even know, or someone at the gas station you don't even know, whatever it is that you just, it's that soul-filling thing, and all you did was,
For me, it's like almost a selfish act to believe in people because it makes me feel good about me. It makes me feel good, almost like I'm doing, because I'm such an average person and a flawed person. But I do remind myself it's that averageness and those flaws that qualify me. And I don't know, when I'm in that way, I feel like I'm the best version of me, like I'm doing some form of God's work, like I'm whispering God's words into them, not my own. And it's selfish because I feel good about me when I believe in other people and when I'm kind to people and extend belief in people. It kind of makes me feel like that's my purpose. And you said something really important earlier that you and I talk about privately all the time. If you're looking for your purpose, you said it earlier, it's probably somewhere buried in some pain you've been through, right? Like in your case, the way you inspire people about their worthiness comes because there was so much of your life where you didn't feel that. There's so many experiences you've had overcoming really difficult times, even if you had progress, like when you were building your cosmetics company, and people connect and relate to you because not just because you're this amazing soul, but because you found your purpose and all that pain you went through. It's a cool part of life once you discover that.
I know, you talked about your dad, your grandpa, your whole journey, and you talk about this idea of being the one in your family, right? And I know for so many people, and really just that one person listening right now, for the one person listening right now who, maybe doesn't have people around them that think the way they do or dream the way they do, or they're just on this road where they're like, can I be the one to break a generational cycle? But the majority don't. The majority stay with what's comfortable, repeat cycles, want to feel love and belonging, and almost feel like if they are a little bit different or dream a little bit bigger, that something's wrong with them, or that they don't fit in, when in fact they might be the one in their family. Can you share this idea? Because I know it is going to speak to someone's soul today. There's so much more coming up in this episode. You are not going to want to miss it. But first, I wanted to share this with you. In life, you don't soar to the level of your hopes and dreams. You stay stuck at the level of your self-worth. When you build your self-worth, you change your entire life. And that's exactly why I wrote my new book, Worthy: How to Believe You Are Enough and Transform Your Life for You. If you have some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill, Worthy is for you. In Worthy, you'll learn proven tools and simple steps that bring life-changing results, like how to get unstuck from the things holding you back, build unshakable self-love, unlearn the lies that lead to self-doubt, and embrace the truths that wake up worthiness, overcome limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome, achieve your hopes and dreams by believing you are worthy of them, and so much more. Are you ready to unleash your greatness and step into the person you were born to be? Imagine a life with zero self-doubt and unshakable self-worth. Get your copy of Worthy, plus some amazing thank you bonus gifts for you at worthybook.com or the link in the show notes below. Imagine what you'd do if you fully believed in you. It's time to find out with Worthy. Who you spend time around is so important, as energy is contagious, and so is self-belief. And I'd love to hang out with you even more, especially if you could use an extra dose of inspiration, which is exactly why I've created my free weekly newsletter that's also a love letter to you, delivered straight to your inbox each and every Tuesday morning from me. If you haven't signed up to make sure that you get it each week, just go to jamiekernlima.com to make sure you're on the list, and you'll get your One-on-One with Jamie weekly newsletter and get ready to believe in you. If you're tired of hearing the bad news every single day and need some inspiration, some tips, tools, joy, and love hitting your inbox, I'm your girl. Subscribe at jamiekernlima.com or in the link in the show notes. And now, more of this incredible conversation together.
Well, like, you're the one. You are. And so have I become the one. See, here's interesting. When you see like a really happy, I remember when I was a little boy, because of what was going on in my house, if we would go out or other families on our street, there would be these happy families. And I go, I wonder what it's like to be in a happy family. Not that my family didn't have joy. I don't want to overcook that, but there was stress. There was angst. If you grew up in a house where there was just that, I don't know, anxiety, right? And I remember, like, even in our neighborhood, the other kids were kind of afraid of my dad. They could hear my dad yelling, you know? And I remember seeing the other houses where the dad just seemed chill and calm and, you know, I don't know.
Did your neighbors know your dad was alcoholic?
I don't know if they knew he was an alcoholic, but I think they knew he was loose, I guess is the way I would say it. He could snap, right? I don't think they probably connected it to alcohol, but they definitely knew the Milet house, there's some noise going on over there, to put it mildly. Yet you could see my dad other days, and he was the coolest dad in the world. But there were just those days where I don't know if any of you had that, there's a sense of shame that comes with being a part of a dysfunctional family, shame and worry. And, you know, I know what that's like. And to almost wish I was in another family. And I remember as a little boy, I had a couple dreams I was adopted, which ironically you were, right? But I would have these dreams like I was adopted, but my real family's somewhere else and they're happy. And so I always wanted to see these families. And what I found out in my life as I got older is that when you see a really happy family, or even like a rich family, somewhere back in their lineage, they weren't. They weren't. Until the one shows up. And in every family, there's a one. There's the one. And that one person changes a family lineage forever. It brings joy and bliss and peace and faith to a family when it lacked it before. Or it brings affluence and wealth and influence to a family when it lacked it before. And in every family, there's the one. And in my family, I'm the one. My dad set the table by the change he made by getting sober, but I'm the one who got up early. I'm the one who everyone thought was crazy, that everyone criticized. I'm the one who stopped hiding, to quote you, in plain sight. I hid in plain sight. I know exactly what that means when it's in your work. It's one of the most profound things you speak about. I know what it's like to finally go, I'm not going to hide anymore. And I'm not going to believe that I'm crazy. And by the way, I think crazy people rule the world. I think crazy, unusual, weird people are the one. And so I'm the one who got up late. I'm the one who took the hits. I'm the one who people rejected. I'm the one who had to carry the emotional burden of changing our family. And it's so worth it because my nieces and nephews, they don't think like I thought when I grew up. They've got dreams and ambitions and they believe in themselves and they're good people and they contribute. And I'm proud of the fact. And so if you're listening to this, if it even affects you at all, just a little bit in your body, you get a little butterflies or a little bit of emotion, or even if you think it's not me, that means it is you. You're the one. You are the one in your family. And there's this great author named Broderick, and she calls it a generational character. Someone, a transitional character. They transition a family from a family that maybe didn't have faith or bliss and joy and love and laughter into one who does. A family with, the world doesn't have their thumb on the Milet family anymore. We're calling the shots now, right? We're going to get a decent education in our family. We're going to give to the world. We're going to contribute a little bit. The Milets are going to do something awesome, right? And so if you're listening to this, you can be the one in your family. And all it really is seriously, it's just a shift. You have to jump up and down about it. It's just a decision. You're one decision away. You talk about the power of one more. You truly are in your life. You are one decision away from completely transforming and changing your life. That's the benchmark. Now, it may not happen that day, but you're one decision away. And usually those decisions aren't made real loudly. It's just like for me, it's like a shift. It's like, you know what? I'm going to start walking a little different. I'm going to start talking a little bit different. I'm going to bow my shoulders back a little bit. You know what? I'm going to be the one. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I'm very proud of the fact. I mean, there's not a lot of things I'm proud of in my life, but I'm proud of the fact that our family is different now. And if you're listening to this, you're the one. It's not by coincidence we're talking about this today. It's not by coincidence you listen to Jamie. Anyone who's listening to you and is a part of this amazing show you have now, there's something about their soul that's stirred. That they're like, I think it could be me. I hope it's me. Please let it be me. And if you have any of that in you, you're special. Not everybody goes through life like that. Not everybody cares. Not everybody wants to make a difference. And so if you have that, it's you. It's you. You just need someone to tell you. So we're telling you, you're the one. So let's do it. So yeah, that's the power of one more. And it's the power of being the one.
The one. I talk a lot about in Worthy in the book about how our past mistakes, our past failures, our past regrets, our past rejections, so often the stories that we are telling ourselves about them and the meaning we're assigning to them, we've let them take root in our self-worth. A lot of us have had failures, rejections, and instead of thinking like, oh yeah, I made it through that and having this meaning we assign to it that's empowering and inspiring, we let it take root in our identity as like, I'm a failure, I'm a reject. And a lot of times we don't realize we're doing this. And so one of the, there's a whole chapter in Worthy called When You Change Your Relationship with Rejection, You Change Your Entire Life. And by the way, I remember, I'm adopted and I was raised in families where I remember like hustling, working all these jobs in my teenage years, and I was running a health club, and it was the first time ever. So I was a receptionist in a health club. Then they had me give sales tours when the sales team was busy with other clients, and I started closing deals as a receptionist, not knowing what I was doing. And before I know it, I was promoted into sales and then into management, not because I earned it in the sense of like experience, but just based on numbers. That was it. And I remember I was making more money at 18 than my dad was in his 50s, who was working on an assembly line. And I said, I think I want to, go after these dreams. I think I want to do a television show one day. I'm going to try to figure out how to go to college. No one in my family had ever gone to college. And he's like, absolutely not. Like, do you see how much money you're making? And now I look back and I was like, I was not even making that much money. But to him,
was a lot, yeah.
to the circumstances I was raised around, it was a lot. And I always felt, and maybe everyone listening, a lot of people listening can relate to this. I always felt like I was a little bit different. Like I had dreams and goals and I needed to dim my light to fit into my environment. I was sharing dreams. What I didn't know, right? There's this saying, don't ask advice from people who have never been there themselves. And most of my life, I sort of I thought I was odd or strange or different. And I wrote a whole chapter in this called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. And it's when you are the first to show up in this world as who you authentically are, despite your past or the environments you're raised around or the limiting beliefs around you, when you're the first to step into who you authentically are, don't be surprised if not everyone gets it. Don't be surprised if you feel like you don't quite fit in. But the things that we so often think are wrong with us are actually the greatest things right with us. And when we step into them, it's like so empowering. So when you say you read a lot of comments from people that feel like, oh, that's easy for them or it's easy for that, the tools in Worthy are for everybody. It does not matter where you're at or what your life experiences are. At a human level, all of us tell ourselves similar stories about rejection, about failure, about our past mistakes, about the things keeping us stuck, the things holding us back. And when we learn to change our relationship with rejection, we change our entire life. So there's like a 4-part framework in Worthy. Because a lot of people are like, how did you go from your living room to building $1 billion business, especially in all the years of constant rejections? Because a lot of us.
And how many years was that?
Yeah. So I launched the business. Yeah. So
from living room to exit.
Living room to exit, 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Living room to exit, 8 years. Living room to paying myself a single dollar, close to 4. So the first 3 years was like hundreds and hundreds of rejections. So we were teetering on bankruptcy. And in 2008, when I launched at Cosmetics, I have this skin condition called rosacea, which is like when I take my makeup off, it's bright red, it's bumpy. You can probably see some of the bumps right here. It gets really like sandpaper. And I'd seen every dermatologist, tried every medication, all this stuff. And I was anchoring the news. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do forever is other people's stories. I love other people's stories. That's what I'm obsessed with. It's like, I feel like it's why I'm here. And anyway, so I'm like, I'm in my dream job. And I'd be live on the news and I'd hear in my earpiece, like, there's something on your face. There's something on your face.
Oh, that's
Need to wipe it off.
Ugh.
Need to wipe it off. And I'm live and I glanced down. I knew what it was. The makeup would be breaking up and it would start to look like, almost like desert clay cracking where you see the red come through.
I know what you're talking about. When I had acne, when I was younger, it cracks.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I thought, I'm going to get fired, right? And I entered this big season of self-doubt. And what I know for sure, I don't know who needs to hear this today listening to us, but like, I believe so often our setbacks in life are like our setups, right? For what we're called to do, what we're supposed to do. We just don't see it at the time. And I entered this big setback where I was like, every time I'd be on the air, I'd be hearing my earpiece, it's still there, it's still there. And I'd try to cover it up with makeup and nothing would work. And so I started getting this gut feeling of like, well, wait a minute. If you could create something that worked for you, it's probably going to help a whole lot of other people. But then my self-doubt in my head would be like, oh yeah, but you've got no money, you've got no connections, you don't know anyone in the beauty industry. And I sat in that place between having this knowing in my gut, like I'm supposed to like do the thing and launch it. And what if I could do it? And then these no's in my head saying, you don't have what it takes. I sat in that place for a while. And I eventually really had this deep moment where I'm like, okay, my whole life, I have never seen someone with rosacea selling products. Like, what if I could create a beauty company that worked for everybody, even if they had skin issues? What if I put all different types of people as models? So I had this thing that felt bigger than myself to do. But when I took the jump and launched it in my living room, what I didn't know, because you guys will relate to this as entrepreneurs. My husband and I poured every penny we had into this thing. And I just thought, if the product's great, it's just going to sell. And so we put everything we had into the formula, into third-party chemists, into making our first product. And then what I didn't know is from that point on, it would be over 3 years before we would even be able to pay ourselves, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of no's. Every place we sent the product to, that I used to save my Denny's tip money to like buy one product in their store, like Sephora, Ulta, QVC on television, all the department stores. It was no after no after no. And so many of them would say like, no one will buy makeup from images like this. Like you need to use unattainable aspiration. You cannot use real people or people that have skin challenges. It's the whole thing. And so it was over 3 years in, and we got one shot on QVC after they told me no for years. And not only no, but they said to me, you're not the right fit for our customers or for us. And it was no for years. And at the end of the day, what I know for sure is like no's are almost never personal. They just think like, you won't make me money. And that's it. I'm not going to bet on you.
There must be something though at this point that feels worthy in you though to go like there must be something that your self-worth is there. It wasn't like it was non-existent.
Yeah. So a couple things. So, okay. So yes, based on a couple things. One, prayer and starting to believe God's word over my own doubt. Two, a big tool that I go into a whole chapter in Worthy, the book on how to do this in your own life. It's actually what I was going to share earlier. So let me do it. So in the midst of that season, right? Because you're like, where was that worth in you to get through years and years and years of rejections? Because by the way, not to give up the punchline, but we eventually got one shot on QVC. We got one shot. We got a 10-minute window. And you guys, to put this in perspective.
Oh, that's pretty tight.
10 minutes. And here's what's wild is, especially, oh gosh, for anyone who needs to hear this today, who's letting other people's doubts about them equate to doubt in their own head, or they feel like, why is my business not taking off? I knew in my knowing, I knew this was going to be big. I knew it, but sometimes you feel like, is my intuition wrong because I'm getting all these no's around me? We finally got this one shot. Finally, after QVC said no forever, one shot, which meant I got a 10-minute airing live on TV. So they broadcast to 100 million homes. We get one shot. Now, to put this in perspective, you guys. Yeah. Well, and we were only selling, at that point, like 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely alive. And I found out in this one shot, we had to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer to hit their sales number or not come back. Because when you're live on television, you have to hit the same sales numbers as, Apple iPhone, Dyson vacuum, anyone else.
Because that inventory to them is worth that amount.
That airtime. Yeah. Because it's not like a store where a bunch of people can coexist. It's that one 10-minute window. And then I learned, okay, we have to sell 6,000 units, but guess what? It was a consignment offer. That meant we had to pay for all the inventory, manufacture it, ship it in, not guaranteed anything. Then I go live for 10 minutes in my one shot. If it does not sell, we take it all back, which means we go bankrupt. We didn't even have the money to say yes to this. And so we went out and tried to get SBA loans, and 22 banks said no, and they should have. The 23rd bank, which was California Bank and Trust.
I used to bank with them.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that makes me happy. They said yes. They gave us an SBA loan just to cover this like one purchase order and a little bit more. And so I'm like, okay, we're going all in. And then we took that little bit more and we hired third-party consultants. And they all told me the same thing. They're like, in order for you to have a shot at you hitting these sales numbers, here's what you need to do. Use this exact type of model, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, listen, I'm really trying to change the beauty industry. What if I put models in their teens and models in their 80s? And what if I take my own makeup off and show my bright red rosacea and I can prove the product works on live TV? And they were mortified because it hadn't been done. And I sat in this place, and I just want to call this out for anyone listening in this spot, where I had this knowing, I knew why I was doing it. It felt bigger than myself. And I had this knowing I was supposed to do it, but everyone else was telling me no's. Like, no, you shouldn't do it. No, you're not the right fit. And I feel like in life, when you learn to listen to your own intuition, your own knowing, whether you believe it comes from the universe or God or whatever you believe, I think every one of us, our intuition's more powerful than anyone else's advice. And so many of us are in that spot between, oh, I have a knowing, but I'm getting no's from everyone else. Or I have this knowing, but I'm telling myself no in my own head that I'm not enough.
Do you think, though, people were saying no because they're projecting their own self-worth onto you?
Yes, and because when you are doing something authentically in this world, by definition, it's never been done before. And that's when I wrote this chapter in this book, in my new book, Worthy, called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. You don't have to be the first ever to think of something. Just right now, you deciding, you being one of the brave ones to show up. Why so many people connect with you on media, I believe, Lauren, on social media, you freaking fully show up authentically as who you are. You do. And when you're one of the brave ones who shows up as who you authentically are, it's never been done before. You're first. And so for everyone listening, if you buy, there has never been another you before. There will never be another you again. Like, you are the first you. And if you're one of the brave ones willing to show up in your business, in your ideas, in your art, in your show, in anything else as who you authentically are, not everyone's going to get it. They're going to think, because subconsciously it's never worked before, because it's never been done before.
That's a really interesting observation. You're right.
Yeah.
That's 100% right.
And I want to share one thing that was life-changing for me on this journey to confidence. And, I went through a season of what I thought was setbacks. I was anchoring the news. I was working as a journalist. I thought it was my dream job. I always wanted to interview other people, right? And share their stories, like since the time I was a little girl and I was in my dream job. And I started getting rosacea, which is a hereditary skin condition. It was pretty bad. I went through this big season that really affected my confidence, right? And I would get these big red bumps and it would be bright red. And sometimes, even now to this day, Brendan, when, like, let's say I drink wine one night, or it's just a stressful time, or it's just a season, or the weather, and all of a sudden.
So the last 6 months, basically, is what we're talking about.
Basically. I'll just have these, I get really bright red. It kind of can feel like sandpaper. And I went through this season of thinking all the thoughts our inner critic thinks, right? And it really affected my confidence for a long time. And I had this realization in my life, and it really happened the first time I went on live national television and actually took my makeup off. And it's this, right? It's this idea that there are things that we are embarrassed of. And I think this is universal. There are things we're embarrassed of that we let affect our confidence. There's past mistakes we've made. There is, things that we tell ourselves are wrong with ourselves or aren't enough about ourselves. And yet when we embrace them, when we just make the decision to say, oh, this isn't what's wrong with me, this is what's right with me. And I know that's hard, but when we make that decision, when we do something afraid, it literally shrinks that fear. It shrinks the thing that we thought was really a big deal, right? When we share our story for the first time, or do the thing that's holding us back. And I'm just I literally, because I have makeup on because I have a press day for book all day today for the book launch. But I just want to show you something, okay? Because I want to challenge everyone inside the Growth Day morning show. This weekend, we're going into a weekend. I just want you to think about one thing that's holding you back in your own confidence and just do it. And just take that risk and just step forward, okay? And I just want to show you because something happened to me when I did it. So I have a makeup remover wipe, Brendan. This is, you probably never seen one of these. This is a little towelette. I just want to show you something, right? Because so I just have makeup on for press later today. But when I take this off, and I'll never forget the moment I did this for the first time, because I used to think I should be embarrassed or something's wrong with me or I'm not beautiful, all those things. And when I started taking my makeup off, right? Because when I created a company, it wasn't about, oh, these are products that work for, all kinds of skin. It was like, oh, here's what beauty is. It's every single one of us. And you are just as beautiful on the days you want to wear makeup as the days you don't. And something happened to me the moment I did it afraid, the moment I went on national television and just took my makeup off. And Brendan, what started happening literally is I was like, oh, like, it's not about me. B, we're all beautiful. I believe that authentically.
Yes.
I'm no longer afraid of rosacea. I'm no longer embarrassed by it. I no longer think it's ugly. And when I go into grocery stores now and I have no makeup on, right? I'll have people I don't know will be like, oh, are you sunburned or are you not feeling well? And I'm like, no, I have rosacea, it's a skin condition. And I just try to normalize it. And when I see other people, other women, with red cheeks or hyperpigmentation or all this stuff, and I see them just bravely bearing it, I smile like it's like a thing, right? And
it's a beautiful thing. It's inspiring.
Thing. And I think together we're changing the world. And I pulled up one quote I want to share with everyone this morning on the Growth Day morning show, because again, we're all in this together. Every one of us has something that we feel like
makes us feel not enough, or we're embarrassed about, or it's hurting our confidence. And there's a famous quote. So I wrote it down right here, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein, but also a lot of other people. So I don't know the original source, but it says, "Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it's stupid." And I think when we judge ourselves based on something we've defined as wrong with us, we risk spending our whole lives thinking we're wrong.
Yes.
Like when there's something that is holding us back in our own confidence, and we're the ones telling ourselves we're not enough, like we spend our whole lives then thinking we're not enough. And I don't want to swear on the birthday morning show, but I will say this stuff has got to change.
Yes.
This stuff has got to change. And I want to read this quote one more time, because a lot of us are like this fish judging itself to climb a tree, okay? Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. This stuff with what we believe about ourselves and the meaning we attach to the things we think are wrong with us is got to change. And when we take that, when we take that step and do it afraid, right? One person who just wrote down here, I think it was Janie, wrote, "I'm scared to have conversations with other people." You just start. You just do it. You just keep doing it. And once you start doing those things, you build a lot more confidence in it, and the fear shrinks. Like I was scared to death, right? Because I have it on both cheeks. I was scared to death to do this the first time, and the second time, and the third time. But now, but all of a sudden, that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity shrinks, and it becomes replaced by empowerment. And oh yeah, I can do these things. And oh yeah,
self-trust and congruence and readiness. Because I love what you're saying, because confidence, y'all, if you wait to have confidence to do something, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
Confidence is gained in momentum. So if you want more confidence, you get in momentum. You enter the fear, you enter the unknown, you enter the uncertainty, you try it. And as you survive it and do it, you realize, oh, I can handle this, which builds competence inside.
Yeah.
And because you tried it, you have self-trust. You go, oh, I went for it even though I didn't know how it's going to go. And the self-trust and the self-respect and the self-worth grows, not because you achieved something, but because you tried. Because you tried, you moved forward. The achievement was the trying, and you did it. And you also realize that most people aren't, like when you did this, I was watching the comments really closely, Jamie. First, would you all give Jamie a round of applause, because this is so inspiring. Give her some hearts, give her some claps, because this is like, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you just did. It's beautiful. And I'm watching the comments, and people cheer that on. People cheer real life on. We're always scared that, oh, real life, people won't like that. So let me use the filter. People love real. People love this show. They're here every day because they're gaining with us as we're gaining momentum in growth day. They're gaining momentum with us. We're feeling good. We're moving in a direction. We're building new things. We're trying new things. But if you were me and Jamie in the first 4 days of this, it was a hot mess. Yeah. We didn't know how. She's like, we're sitting there with the blue tape trying to figure out how to plug this in, how to make that go. The audio was all messed up. I didn't know I had to wear the earphony things because this mic was doing something weird on the. We had no idea what we were doing, but we're gaining confidence and steam as we go along, and we get to do that with you. Yeah. Please heed what she's sharing. I shared about that yesterday too. I want to just emphasize her fish out of water. That was yesterday's message too, was remember that. Be kind of like water. The water, as it flows, can go around any obstacle, no matter how big the obstacle is, and it doesn't try to change its nature.
Yeah.
It follows its path. It follows its path. And by following your real path, not trying to hide who you are, following your real path, I really believe people will cheer you on and support you way more than the haters. The haters are, I'll just give you the rule. Haters are 10%. If you can accept that whatever you do in your life, 10% of people are maybe going to give you some negative feedback, criticism, judgment, unfair judgment, or hate.
Yeah.
What would you do in your life? Because that's only 10%. 90% of people got your back. You could swarm the haters. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I love that so much. It's so true. And it's beautiful too. The more you embrace the parts of yourself that you think are not enough, and literally you can switch your mindset around them and just embrace them as beautiful. Or, in my case, a lot of times I think to myself, oh, this is helping someone else. It's helping normalize skin issues, or it's helping, right? It's like when we reveal the real of who we are, it shrinks our fear, it boosts our confidence, but it also becomes about something bigger than ourselves too. And
Yes.
one great example of this, anyone out there who knows Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, right? Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She is such a I love when people just show it all, right? She's married to Jesse Itzler, who I believe he's vegan. Sarah's obsessed with Cheez-Its and French fries. And she's not even trying to act like she's not. And it's a really cool thing because I'm just thinking of this because she's turning 50 and she just went on a trip by herself. So she has 4 kids and she's like, for a gift, I just want to go away by herself. She went away by herself and she's posting all week long from her hotel room what she's doing all alone. And I'm just a little biased because she brought my book, Believe It, with her to read the second time. She already read the book. She sent me a whole testimonial about it, saying every woman in the world needs this, every entrepreneur. And then she's now reading it a second time on her 50th birthday week. And she's posting it and sitting next to, she has a table of wine, French fries, and salad to keep it all balanced.
This sounds great.
Right?
What a good vacation. Good job.
I'm like, that's the best. I'm like, that's a room with some of my favorite things. Sarah Blakely, the Believe It book, wine, French fries, and he was Caesar salads. Yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, brilliant.
Well, she got the salad in. I mean, those points. Those points.
Yeah, she's like her husband will approve of one of those things.
If I eat something terrible like pizza or something, I'll go to the pantry and eat all these chlorella and spirulina tablets that we have. I'm like, well, so I'll eat a pile of them, just a bunch of greens I'll swallow after. I'm like, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
That's great. Everyone loves you. If you don't know what Jamie's talking about, she's talking about her book, Believe It. It is so good. Please pick it up. It is going to be a huge bestseller because A, everyone loves Jamie and believes in her. B, the value in this book of vulnerability, of sharing this difficult journey of how do you believe in yourself, start something that's your own, build it up, endure the constant no's and haters and criticism and frankly demeaning people that can be in the world, to follow your passion and build something that's real. And you have to do that. You have to believe it. So she did it as a play on words because her company was called It Cosmetics. Yeah. And so believe it as in It Cosmetics, but believe it, also believe it. Believe is possible for you.
You have said nothing mattered to you more
than the color purple.
And for every woman who has felt unseen or unvalued, this is her story.
Well, you saw that trailer. I'm so glad. I feel that the color purple circle for me is, it's transcendent. I mean, I just can't even believe this happened to me in this lifetime. As you've heard me say, from the moment I read the book, July 1982, it was a Sunday. I got up, went back to the bookstore, bought multiple other books, gave them out. The moment I opened the book and the first lines are, "Dear God, I'm 14 years old. I've always been a good girl." That's my story. Yeah. Please explain what's happening to me. That's my story. And I could not believe that there are words on a page that are reflecting my story. Somebody knows my story at 14? I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. First of all, those of you who are listening, you just have to imagine a world in 1982. There are no black shows. There are no black images. There are no black role models. There are no black magazine covers. There's nothing that reflects you in the world. You go to work and come and you never see a billboard or a bus, back of a bus, nothing that looks like you. I think maybe Good Times was on or something like that, or All in the Family. God bless Norman Lear. but you are not being reflected on a regular basis in your work, in any environment whatsoever. And so to pick up a book, which I loved books, the only other story I had read that had come close to reflecting me was Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing. And I read that at 15. So in 1982, when I read this, I was now 28 years old. And there is my story on a page. I didn't know what to think. So that's why I went back to the bookstore and got all the other copies and passed them out to friends. And then I hear that there's going to be a movie, and that whole process of how do I find a way to get in a movie? I don't know one single thing about movies or anybody in the movies. I then, 6 months later, get a call. Quincy Jones was in Chicago and happened to be coming out of the shower and saw me on AM Chicago. He had taken a red eye. Now, what would have happened had he not taken the red eye? What had happened if he had already spent the night and been in the room? I mean, so all those forces, I get a call saying, come and audition. I audition. I don't hear anything for 2.5 months. When I call the casting agent, he says, real actresses have auditioned for this part. Do you know who just left my office? Alfred Woodard. Don't you call me, I'll call you. Reuben Cannon, who just the other day called and asked for tickets for the premiere. That same guy.
Wow.
That same guy. And didn't I get him tickets to the premiere? So anyway, I go to this fat farm because I am like devastated, and I know that it's because I'm overweight, and I'm praying on the track, and I'm crying and crying and crying and hoping that I can release it, because months have now passed. I've been shamed on The Tonight Show by Joan Rivers. I have my first appearance on The Tonight Show. And you know, they pre-interview you before. So we're supposed to be talking about the great success of this little talk show in Chicago that's beating Phil Donahue. And Joan Rivers turns to me and she says, tell me, why are you so fat? On national television. And I don't know what to do with that. I just am like, I just love potato chips, Joan. She says, no, seriously, shame on you, shame on you. She says on national television on The Tonight Show, my first appearance. So I agreed with Joan Rivers that she says, I'll let you come back if you lose 15 pounds. You need to lose 15 pounds. She says to me on national television, and I accepted. I accept that I should be shamed, because how dare me be sitting up here on The Tonight Show. And I had agreed that I was going to go away and lose 15 pounds. And of course I didn't lose the 15 pounds. I went and ate my way to another 10 pounds. So that by the time I got the call for Color Purple, by the time I called to say, you know, have you heard anything after the audition, I thought, okay, I didn't get it because I was overweight. And that's why I left and I went to this health retreat, which they were, at the time, they called them fat farms. It's not me calling it. And I was on the track trying to release the let me let it go, because I'm obsessed with it. And I started singing, I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. Over and over and over and over and over again. I sang that song and prayed and cried. And when I stop and say, okay, I can let it go, I hadn't let it go. I prayed and cried some more until I could bless Alfred Woodard with the role. Because I thought, there's no way I'm going to get it. He said Alfred Woodard left his office. There's no way. And I wanted to be able to see the movie, but I want to be able to see the movie and not be upset that I didn't get it. So God help me bless Alfred Woodard. And I cried and prayed some more. And in the moment I felt the release, a woman comes running out and she says, there's a phone call for you. And that phone call from Steven Spielberg saying, I hear you're at a fat farm. If you lose a pound, you could lose this part. The fact that it happened in the instant I'd know I let it go, was the greatest life lesson I have ever received. because I physically felt the release, and I saw that the second I did that, it changed. The second I stopped resisting, the second I stopped wondering, the second I stopped putting myself in the fear space and said, it is well. Use me how you choose to use me. I thought this was the answer, but now I see it's not. I'm willing to be open to wherever you take me. The instant I did that, I saw that woman. And so that became my grounding teaching for the rest of my life and career. Do everything you can, work as hard as you can, and then let it go. Give it to God. Give it to the universe. Let it be an offering. Do not resist. Do not resist. Do not push against it. Let it go. And that was the great teaching. That was the great teaching that ruled every decision going forward. Do what you have to do. Let it go. Do what you have to do. Let it go. No attachment. Have no attachment to the outcome. And then when I lost track of that lesson, I got it again the hard way. I worked on Beloved for 10 years, was attached to the outcome, went into major depression afterwards. And why? Why did I go into depression? Because of my attachment. Not because the movie failed, because my attachment to it succeeding. Because the work was the work. I loved every minute of the work, the process of the work, everything that I offered. I still loved that. I wouldn't change a thing. When I was offered an opportunity to change it, I said, no, I'm not going to change it. They said, well, it's screening this way and people don't, I'm not going to change it. So what was I attached to? I was attached to it being something that I wanted it to be versus what it really was.
Launching
and
this
so I
show.
learned from that experience, back to your question, I learned from that experience after Beloved. Never do anything with the attachment to how people are going to receive it. Let the joy of doing it, let the joy of the process of the work and putting the work out into the world be your reward. And however people receive it, that becomes the bonus. But the work and the art, you wouldn't change anything about that. The real joy is in the offering.
In The Color Purple, one of the most powerful lines. Well, actually, let me ask you about Sophia first. When you played it, that line in the cornfield.
You told Harpo to beat me all my life. I had to fight. All my life, I had to fight. Had to fight my uncles, my brothers. I never thought I had to fight them. And I added my cousins because it was my cousin who raped me. All my life, I had to fight. And that line I did in the first take. And I did it from the space of knowing a girl child ain't safe in a world full of men, which is the last line. Because a girl child ain't safe in a world full of men. And I know that to be so true. And that was a great day for me. That was really a great day for me. The best scene for me was the dinner table scene, which takes a long time because you got all those actors at the table. But that's the day I actually became an actress, I think, because I only had one line and then the rest of it I ad-libbed. I mean, the line was, how you doing, Miss Sophia? And she's supposed to nod and say, doing all right. And then Stephen said, tell us how you felt in the store when Miss Seeley came to see you. Tell us. And so I just started rocking and ad-libbing and saying, the day I seen you in that store, I know there was a God. I know there was a... So, I mean, let me just say this. The Color Purple, aside from the fact that it taught me to surrender in all of my work and life and to live a surrendered to God existence. So imagine that. When you see me walking, you see a woman who surrendered her life to the higher power. So I'm stepping out on moonbeams and stars. I am literally walking in the light because I have lived a surrendered life. How the hell else do I get from Mississippi to Montecito as your next door neighbor? It just isn't possible without that. Okay? So it taught me that, to live a surrendered life. Don't you dream the dream. Let God dream the dream for you, and you step into the dream. You ask God, what is the dream? What is your dream for me? Because I'm open to go where you lead. And so it led me here, right across the fence from you. Number 2, watching Steven Spielberg and Quincy Jones and Alice Walker every day. Be in that creative, collaborative space. Wow. Everybody, the crew around, everybody feeling like family, working together to build something, towards something. I thought, I never want a job. I never want a job or to work for anybody again. I want this feeling. I want this thing that I'm feeling, that you're feeling with your crew here. I want this feeling every day. I never want to feel like that. I want to always feel like even if I didn't get paid, I would be doing it. I had to give up my entire contract's vacation in order to do the film. So I had a contract for 3 years. My first year, I was only getting 2 weeks of vacation. The movie required me to be on set for 2 months. The only way I could negotiate to continue to do the movie, because my bosses at ABC at the time, at AM Chicago, were like, you better get your ass back here. And I said, I will give up my entire vacation for the entire contract. I will never take another vacation if you let me finish this movie. And at the end of that deal, my attorney said, you never want to be in that position again. And I said, I never want to be in that position. I don't want to be in that position again. And I had gone for the final audition, to Universal Studios, and I met with Steven Spielberg. He's the one that told me that I had the part. He has a company called Amblin. He owned himself with Amblin Studios. Every movie you see Steven Spielberg's, you see the Amblin, and you see a little boy, and you see the moon and the whole thing. It never occurred to me you could own yourself. It never even occurred to me a person could own themselves. That gave me the idea that I could own myself. Giving up 3 years of my vacation, said, I never want to be in that position again. And that is how I came to own myself.
Wow. All woven through the color purple.
All woven through the color purple. So when I say it was the most life-changing thing that ever happened to me, it defined my career.
It's funny you should say that, because Amber and I were posting a lot about our wedding. And we had a second honeymoon.
Yeah.
And also almost like a second wedding. My siblings wanted to throw us a party in New Orleans, and it was like second lining, and we posted all this excitement and that. A second wedding cake, and posted it. And there was especially the video of us dancing second lining. And there was a comment in one of the posts, and it said, let me quote it, geez, enough already. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I am. Oof. And I went to bed, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And there were, so many positive comments, but that one, and I kept thinking, like, geez, enough already. The next day, a dear friend reached out to me because her nephew is quite ill and wanted me to do something. And she said, you are a burst of joy. I'm going to watch the video that you just posted. I'm going to watch it again. Woo! And I'm thinking, here I was like, oh, this person's, geez. But you know what? This friend and possibly others, they needed that burst of joy, as she put it. So I'm glad I didn't respond or feel that at that moment when it happens. It's like you go to bed, you wake up, and it is. I do feel that I'm brighter by the day.
Do you read negative comments?
Where's Amber? Because she got me. Back when I was first starting, not first starting, but part of my time at Good Morning America. And I would read, it was the message boards. That's how old I am. It was the message boards. And there was one, his moniker was Bubba. And I'd be like, oh, Bubba said this, Bubba said that. And she's like, why are you? As I've gotten older and now, I just don't. I post, but I also want to engage with people. I do like to respond to them. And it used to be that I would not only, but I would respond to the negative ones. Why do we do that? Like we're trying to, especially when I was younger. But not so much anymore. But also when somebody does say something, if it's constructive, I will respond. And I think they're almost as surprised that I am responding to what could be seen as a negative response. But you know what? In all honesty, yes, I read them, but they don't impact me as they once did. But I think those of us who say, know that we don't see it are not maybe being really truthful. I think we all do read them, but it's just getting to a state where it just no longer has the impact that it once did.
Do you still, with all that you've accomplished and just how held in such high esteem you are, with all of it, do you still face or deal with discrimination?
Yes. I am a Black gay woman in America. And though we are where we are, yes, I do. But you know what? It's something that my mom and dad taught me. I remember being out of college, applying for a job, and I didn't get it. And I went back to my mom and dad. I didn't get it because you know why? Because I'm a Black woman. That's why I didn't get it. They were like, oh, no, honey, maybe you didn't get it because you're not good enough yet. Maybe
Your parents said that to
my
you?
parents said very gingerly, we love, but maybe you're not good enough yet. Maybe that. Don't look for that to be an excuse. Don't look for that to be the reason why you didn't get something. So yes, there is discrimination. There is discrimination that I face. But I don't let it define me. I don't, it hasn't prevented me, nor will it prevent me from achieving all that is that I want to achieve. But yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us, Jamie, what was one of the greatest points of rejection, and what happened internally that kept you going when so many people would have quit?
Yeah. I believe when we change our relationship with rejection, like we literally can change our whole lives.
Okay, I have to stop you. I'm so sorry, I have to stop you. You have to say that again, and I want to let that sink in, then I want you to keep going. Just say it one more time. I want our listeners to feel that. This is worth the whole time. Say it again, please, and then unpack it for us.
When we change our relationship with rejection, we change our entire lives. We change our teams, we change our business, we change. I believe we can never reach our true calling and our true potential and our true greatness unless we literally learn how to change our relationship with rejection. And when we see it as something that comes with the territory of being a brave one willing to go after your calling, one willing to go after your potential, one willing to bet on yourself and bet on the vision God's put in you, you're a brave one. And I think that when you're going after anything great and anything brave, it comes with rejection. So I've literally in my life, and I still get rejected to this day, right? And like, it's so funny, but it rolls right off me now, Craig. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I see it as like, it's like a reminder. Oh, I just got rejected again. Yep, I'm a brave one. I'm going after it. I am not going to get to heaven one day and be like, God, I lived as half as who you made me to be. God, I stepped into a quarter of my greatness. God, I know you put all these big things inside of me and I did some of them. Like, like I keep reminding myself I want to arrive there and be like, I have nothing left. Be like, I gave it my all. And so I've flipped my mindset into, okay, rejection, boom, boom. I don't hear it anymore as you're not enough, right? I used to always hear rejection as almost like a reminder of something I wish I didn't believe, which is that I'm not enough. And that was a really big thing to get over in my life. And so, part of launching the It Cosmetics, right? Long before it was this, we built a team of over 1,000 employees, became the largest, #1 luxury makeup company in the country, in the United States. All these things happen. A lot of people just know that part. But the real journey is a girl who literally, I started believing I wasn't enough. And I tried to enter this beauty industry to change the conversation and help everyone feel like, oh, wait, you are enough. And let's try to shift the conversation around that. But the journey was filled with so many rejections. And, to talk about, I don't even know how I could pick one. There were so many. And here's the thing is so many of the people that rejected me along the way were who I would consider experts, right? And sometimes it's so easy to put experts on this pedestal and be like, well, if they're telling me I don't have what it takes, or they're saying I'm not going to succeed, like it's very hard not to let those words of rejection turn into self-doubt in our own heads. And so on my journey, of sending the product out to all these retailers, and I really believed in it. And 2 quick rejections that stand out. One was after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rejections from every retailer out there. We got a phone call from a potential investor who's a big private equity company, and they gotten a hold of our product and loved the product and wanted to have a meeting. And I was so excited, Craig, because I thought, oh my gosh, they've taken so many of these unknown brands and made them into huge consumer product companies that we all shop for in grocery stores and know of. And I thought, if they invest, then A, I won't go bankrupt, and B, maybe they can use their leverage to get us into all of these retailers that keep telling me no. And so we did all the meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting. We entered the diligence phase, right, which is when they start looking into all of our financial projections, our future product pipeline. And it came down to the final meeting, and my husband and I flew up for it. And the head guy at the private equity company, he was really kind. His whole team was awesome. And at the end, he says to me, and by the way, this is now after a couple years and hundreds of rejections, right? So we're at that under $1,000 in our bank account, maybe going bankrupt at any moment situation. And we're in person, and he was about 3 feet from me. And he says to me, congratulations, we really believe in your product. It's a great product. But it's a no, we're going to pass on investing in It Cosmetics. And I was just like, devastated, right? And I was like, okay, but I was so used to hearing no at this point. And I said, well, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. I said, can you tell me why? And he got really quiet, and there was a long pause, and he says, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I'm like, yes, please. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And I remember when he said those words, well, first of all, it was like a lifetime of body doubt, self-doubt, like flooded my whole body. And I never actually felt any anger toward him or anything like that. But I remember one moment that I just want to call this out, because I feel like these are the moments, and we all have them. We've all had someone look at us and tell us we're not enough, for whatever version of rejection we've faced. And sometimes it's someone in our family who loves us and just doesn't see our dream. Sometimes it's a partner. Sometimes it's in business. But we've all had these moments. And what I'll never forget, Craig, literally like it was yesterday, is when he was saying those words to my face. He says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I got this feeling deep down in like the pit of my stomach that said he's wrong. Like I felt it so strongly. And I still went out in my car and cried. All of those things. And for many years, when I would hear those words, you know how we hear the words sometimes that someone says to us that hurt, I would like imagine myself turning down the volume on them and turning the volume up, and that feeling I had, which I realized is a knowing. It's an intuition. It's a still small voice. It's God telling us, oh, he's telling you no, but I'm giving you a knowing, right? It's that knowing we have inside. And I believe our life comes down to the moments when we trust our knowing over the no's, our knowing over what we can't see in front of us, what looks like, is it going to happen, or is it going to come to pass, or is it, you know what I mean? And by the way, 6 years later, and I'm skipping over so many things, but 6 years later, when L'Oreal bought this little tiny company I started in my living room for $1.2 billion cash. And it was their largest acquisition in the US and US history for them. They made me the first woman to hold a CEO title in their 100+ year history of any brand. And it was a whole thing. So it was on the homepage of the Wall Street Journal the day that it happened online. And that's when I heard from that investor for the first time. And he said, congratulations. I hadn't heard from him in 6 years. And he said, congratulations. I was wrong.
Yes.
I'm so happy for you.
And you're so much politer than I am, because I would have said to him, and I'll give you 1.2 billion reasons why you're wrong.
I love that so much.
I don't recommend that anyone else says that, but it's just like
so
that,
good.
Yeah, we don't want to rub it in his face.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.